Napoli fans around the world, welcome to this Champions League draw reaction video. And oh my word, what a group that Milan is in. PSG, Dortmund, and then Newcastle from pot 4. Could it get any more difficult than that, with Tonali coming back to the San Siro as well? That's going to be a very, very interesting storyline. But what unluck from Milan. I mean, they were Champions League semi-finalists last season, and that still wasn't good enough for them to get into that pot 2. They were in pot 3. They were unlucky. They got two big teams from pot 1 and 2. Having said that, PSG is not the same PSG of a few years ago. You could even say since last year, they've not really been the same, where I think that they are a beatable team. Borussia Dortmund, on the other hand, they remain strong, but they've lost a guy like Jude Bellingham. So on paper, the words PSG, Dortmund, they sound very difficult, but actually it could be Newcastle out of all those three teams that could be the most difficult opponent for Milan. I mean, going to St. James's Park on a Champions League night after they haven't had Champions League football in so long, that is going to be one of the most difficult fixtures that anyone's going to have to do. The whole Tonali story, that's going to be interesting. So wow. Milan's group, that is seriously tough. Now, Inter and Lazio, on the other hand, much more manageable groups. Inter in pot 2 managed to get Benfica in pot 1. Now, we all know Benfica did super well last season in the Champions League, but they were beaten none other than by Inter in the quarterfinals last year. That means that Inter is able to beat Benfica. They know what that stadium is all about, and I honestly can't see Benfica pulling off the same type of championship that they did last season. I don't think they're going to catch teams by surprise anymore, because I do think that there was an element of that last season. Inter are going to be prepared for that. The other two teams that they have, they're decent teams. I think Real Sociedad is a very good team here in Spain, but they've avoided some of the bigger ones from that pot 4. Whereas, for example, we got Union Berlin, Milan got Newcastle. Real Sociedad, I think, is a step below these guys. So not bad for Inter, not bad. And then Lazio, look, they got the easiest team in pot 1 by far. Feyenoord. I know it's a difficult ground to go to. They have a lot of beef with Roma. So actually with Lazio, it could be that that's not such a difficult ground for them to go to. There could be some sort of friendship between them, actually. Obviously, there's Atletico Madrid, who remain a very good team, but that's going to be interesting. Maurizio Sarri's football versus Diego Simeone's, a clash of two mentalities coming together. And then finally Celtic. Celtic, look, they're not the best team in the world, but again, a very difficult one from pot 4. I think going over there to play is going to be difficult. 60,000 seater stadium. The fans get behind the team. Not going to be easy, but I do think that Lazio should be able to put Feyenoord and Celtic aside. Having said that, it's Maurizio Sarri. And Maurizio Sarri does not like to play multiple competitions. Does he feel like he has the squad for Lazio to go far in this competition? Is he going to try to focus on the Serie A? He's got a few points to recover already after the first 2 games, and he plays against us very, very soon. So that's going to be very interesting to see how he manages the 2 different competitions. We know what he's like. Speaking of the Lazio game, guys, I will be at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona for Napoli-Lazio, so there won't be a classic post-match video live afterwards, but I'll do my reaction the day after, all right? I promise you that. The day after, or on the day after that, however long it takes me to edit that video. But do get your predictions in for the Napoli-Lazio game using the form that's in the link below. You guys know the drill. It's a fun game. The leader of the month of August, now I'm going to message to come onto the channel, and we get to do a video. probably over the break. So it's quite cool for you guys that want to share your opinions to play this game, and then we can make a video together. Now, moving on to Napoli's group, all right? It became very, very evident as the pot 2 was going on that we would be getting Real Madrid, because there was this mega team in there and it was not getting picked by anybody. And then I was like, oh no, it's gonna be us, it's gonna be us, it's gonna be us. And we didn't even get the climax of them saying, oh, it's Real Madrid Napoli, because it was just, that was the final option that they had. It had to be Napoli. So when it finally was confirmed and the guy Abidal opened the ball and showed the paper to say Group C, which is ours, we already knew that Real Madrid was going into Group C. Super difficult to go to the not to the Camp Nou, obviously. No one's going to be playing at the Camp Nou this year because Barcelona's renovating their stadium. Obviously, the Santiago Bernabéu in Madrid, that's going to be super difficult, guys. It's the most difficult team you could have gotten pot 2. We got it, okay? That's for sure. Jude Bellingham, Vini Jr., Carlo Ancelotti, Rodrigo, Kroos, like stars all around in that team, guys. It's gonna be calcio champagne, you know. There's gonna be football that's going to be played there, Brazilian football with Vini and Rodrigo and all these guys. But it's gonna be, I think, a battle of Kvara versus Vini, Modric versus Lobotka, Camavinga and Valverde versus Anguissa. It's going to be pure football, okay? And I do worry for our center backs, to be honest, in that game. They're going to have such a hard time. But this game could be the game that decides who's better, Vini Jr. or Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. Who's the best left winger in here at the moment, right? And the eyes of the world are going to be on that game. No matter what else happens in that day, people are going to be watching Napoli, Real Madrid. That's the level that Napoli is at right now. We are within the top 8 or 10 that is likely to win this Champions League. We've made huge strides. I think it's cool to go and play against a team like Real and really see, okay, how do we match up against them in a non-knockout game, right? Because the risk level is a bit less. We can afford to lose against Real Madrid and still qualify to the next round. Obviously, it would be an amazing achievement to beat them in the group. That's going to be super difficult. I feel like at home we can beat anybody. At the Bernabeu, that's a different story. Real Madrid turn it up, but again, it's not the Real Madrid of the knockout rounds, right? That's when they really turn it up. And who knows, maybe this year Ancelotti, without a clear number 9, might struggle in the Champions League, right? I mean, one thing is facing Real Madrid with Benzema, and one thing is without. Now, obviously, Jude Bellingham is there compared to last season, but he's not a real number 9. And I think maybe, actually, for our defense, that could be a good thing, right? That we don't have a threat like Benzema coming to face us. Having said that, they remain an incredible team. It's a mouth-watering fixture. The other two teams, Braga and Union Berlin, out of those two, even though Union Berlin is in pot 4, they are the strongest team. And what a ride that they've had in the past few seasons, going from 11th, then 7th, then 5th, and then finally 4th. And this season they started super well. 2 wins out of 2, 4-1 and 4-1, both at home and away from home. They've got ex-Serie A experience in there with Gosens joining from Inter, potentially Bonucci as well joining, according to Fabrizio Romano. I mean, just when you think you've seen enough of that guy, you might have to face him again in the Champions League. And yeah, it's not an easy team, guys. This is a team that historically maybe has not been in the Champions League, but they've built a few years of experience, of just squad understanding. They are ready for this competition, guys. They've been climbing that table consistently. This is what they have been working towards. And yeah, I believe that they are going to be a real pain, not just for us, but also for Real Madrid. And then Braga, on the other hand, look, they are the weakest of these teams, right? They had to go through the qualifying round. They beat Panathinaikos both at home and away, so they're not a bad team. They finished as the last qualifying spot in Portugal last season. They were about 10 points away from the title. They're not an easy team either, guys. Having said that, I don't think that they're at the level of Union Berlin, Real Madrid, or Napoli. So if they can grab a point or two in this group, that's massive. Congrats to them. And that could be key, right? Like, imagine a team that loses points to Braga. That's where that could determine if your rival is going to be second, first, or third, right? Because imagine they can steal a point from somehow Real Madrid. That opens up the door for us. Or if they can steal a win or a point from Union Berlin, all of a sudden that creates a gap between us and them. Because, yeah, I mean, it's not guaranteed that we finish top two with Union Berlin in there. Obviously, that's the expectation, at least second there. And hopefully, guys, we get to at least be in the quarterfinals of the next of this year's Champions League. You know, we should at least aim to match what we did last season in this competition. It would be so good to go to the semi-finals, just like Garcia did with Lyon. But so much of that, guys, depends on if we finish first or second. If we finish first, we can avoid some of the really big teams that finish first in their groups. Also, super important for this year, guys, that the top two ranking nations will get 5 Champions League spots next season. The first nation is obviously going to be England, and then it's a dogfight between Italy, Spain, and Germany on who's going to be ranked number 2. Now, this is, again, historically speaking, the last 5 seasons count. The Serie A did incredibly well last season to recover so many points. We were in all 3 finals, Conference League, Europa League, and Champions League. If we do something similar like that and we get a bunch of teams in the semifinals of these competitions, if we go far, we could open up the door to 5 Champions League teams next season. That could be really good for Italian football. It's obviously something that I think Serie A needs in terms of TV rights and all that. I know some people will think, oh, but that just gives more money to another team in the Serie A. It just makes it easier for the likes of Roma and Lazio and Juve to just get that extra chance to get into the Champions League football. I mean, guys, we also are not guaranteed top 4 this season. I mean, we're starting from scratch with Garcia. I'm sure we'll be able to do fine, but it's not a guarantee. And you have to think long term what this can be for Italian football. To have that guarantee of 5 places could be good in case we go through a rough patch. It's also good, as I said, to renegotiate our TV rights, both nationally and maybe even more so internationally, to say that we have 5 spots, that we are the second best nation, the second best league. That's huge potentially. That could mean more money into the balance of every single club in the Serie A, and we take that fight to La Liga and Bundesliga, and we make sure that whatever talent in the market, we get it, right? And that we create a gap between them, because it's, guys, nowadays transfers are through the roof, the fees, and we need every little bit of money that we can get. And it's not about us versus Inter, it's not about us versus Milan. It's gonna have to be, we have to start thinking us versus the other federations, right? And we have to go into the Bundesliga and take their best talents, and into the La Liga and take their best talents, which is what we tried to do first with Vega, and then we managed successfully with Lindstrom. We have to fight against them first and foremost. in terms of these transfers, right? Because we're not going to transfer much between ourselves anyways. Right, guys, I think that wraps up my reaction to this draw. Milan have it tough. I wonder how that's going to affect the Serie A, because they're going to have to go full steam ahead in both competitions, because that's what their history tells them to do. But I mean, they can't afford to play a B team in the Champions League with the group that they have here. Are they going to then drop points in the Serie A? Potentially. But they could also finish fourth in their group, and then they could be out of European competitions, and then they have an easier second half of the season. So that's going to be super, super interesting for Milan. And it just goes to show that, yeah, you need to get these early wins like we did in before the Champions League starts, because after that, you never know what kind of commitment you need to bring to the table for this competition. Milan certainly has to give it their 100% in order to manage to get to the next rounds. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to remember to do the Napoli Talk match predictor. It's super fun, I think. And if you've liked the video, but only if you've liked the video, then go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you think of this draw and of this video, and I'll catch you guys next time. Ciao, and as always, Forza Napoli sempre.